doing a lot of math here today, and your minds are cooking, and you're a little fried, but you're not gonna really be able to use that information and that material unless you're in the right mind frame. And I wanna talk to you about some of the insidious ways that your brain is just really bad with money. Not, again, we're standing in the palace of bad of money. This entire town is a monument to people not understanding odds intuitively. What you guys are doing right now is trying to learn about your investments. That makes you unusual. 16% of this country, they don't research their stocks at all. They take a tip from someone they see, they buy stocks. That's about 1 in every 6 people actually does research. You guys are among that group. By trying to learn, you're setting yourselves apart. That makes you special. That makes you cool. Now let's get into it. We're going to keep it tight, then we'll take some Q&A. First, we're going to start. My friend Chris here is going to show you the official death of financial television as a relevant source of information in the United States. Roll 'em, my friend. I think you press play. At least in theory.
March 12th, 2009. You've watched snippets of them for days, or meant to after your friends sent you the link. You twit-blogged it on the Interscape. People on TV have talked about how much people have talked about it.
Ongoing grudge match between Daily Show host Jon Stewart and CNBC host Jim Cramer.
People staying in hotels are wondering why it's on the cover of their free paper. Tonight, the week-long feud of the century comes to a head. Cramer, Stewart, in a 12-minute face-off that could marginally increase the very rate Comedy Central charges for 30 seconds of advertising time. Welcome to Brawl Street. Get ready to buy low and sell die.
Thank you. Stop it. We're going to go into the PowerPoint now. Now, the interesting thing about that, 2 things. They alluded to on that thing, the entire hype, the Jim Cramer, Jon Stewart showdown was the 2nd highest rated show in Daily Show history. It was an absolutely enormous event. It was also a nice bookend to how financial television gained prominence in the first place, which was in 1987. I've got a free copy of the book I wrote with Josh Brown for whoever can tell me how far the Dow fell on October 19th, 1987. Anyone, take a guess, within 3%. Percentage basis. 21%, who said it? You win, sir. It fell 22% that day. This man right here, Louis Rukeyser, he was the precursor to Anthony Scaramucci, who started this very long day. He's reviving Wall Street Week. He became famous, he became known, because on his show, the Friday before the crash, a man named Marty Zweig came on and said, I think the stock market is going to crash. At that time, there was no CNBC. CNBC didn't exist until 2 more years. And so that call became absolutely famous. Now, Wall Street Week was owned by the Maryland Public Broadcasting System, then as now a rather obscure operation, shown on PBS, NPR. People didn't care about their stock quotes. They didn't look. They didn't matter. And on top of which, going into that show, the market had already fallen 17% over the last 2 months. So it was hardly this groundbreaking call. If he did it today, I wouldn't get any attention for it at all. In fact, the Dow had fallen 4.7% that very day. At this point, you can only imagine. CNN would be doing daily, live break-in specials with the 4 traders who actually still work on the trading floor, talking to them about how the Dow was going to be a wreck and this was a nightmare. It was an entirely different time. Flash forward, then you get this. March 9th, Jon Stewart came out with FU CNBC. This was the pinnacle. This was absolutely the ironic bottom call of all time. You know why? Because March 9th was what? It was the bottom. It was the absolute bottom of the financial sell-off. The crisis ended that day at S&P 666, ominously enough. Ooh. Stocks were already down 50%. What he came out, it ignored willfully the fact that A, people had been warning about this sell-off for ages, including Cramer himself, who went on the Today Show and warned people in October that stocks could fall some 20%. It was one of the greatest calls of all time. That didn't really matter for reasons we're going to get into in terms of whether or not you'd rather be right or you'd rather be a member of a club, because at this point, Jon Stewart chose to rip Cramer a new one for 12 straight minutes in front of about 4 million people watched that show. Unbelievable ratings for that. It was absolutely a basic cable miracle. I spent hours talking to Cramer about it. He regarded it as somewhat unfair. But then again, someone had to suffer because Wall Street had done America wrong. Jon Stewart had been the man. It was unbelievable in so many ways. There we are right there. See that little bottom right there? That was the whole kerfuffle between CNBC and Jon Stewart. So what happened? Was Jon Stewart widely discredited? Did people despise him? Did The Daily Show become less popular? Au contraire, my friends. 10-year S&P, we're up 200% since that Daily Show call, since Jon Stewart said, F you, Cramer, ignoring Guy Adami, ignoring me, if I might humbly add, and other people who were telling you in March of that month that buying stocks seemed to make sense. It was an impeccably terrible call. And by the way, Jon Stewart's brother is the vice president of the New York Stock Exchange. So this wasn't a call made out of ignorance. This was a call made out of, hey, all my really smart buddy demographic who watches this show, you want to feel smart? Let's ridicule the CNBC guy. And what happened was the Daily Show became more popular. In fact, it became more trusted. You don't even see CNBC on this list. The Daily Show is more trusted as a news source than Bloomberg, which actually tries to be unbiased, than CNBC, again, not even on the list, and CNN. He's up with Sean Hannity. And that speaks to a point that we're going to make, because as financial news died, what you lost was the ability to maintain some sort of balance in terms of your view. CNBC actually, for all the criticism they get for being cheerleaders at the time, as you remember when you're rallying, they call Maria Bartiromo the chief cheerleader of the rally. From a ratings perspective, the dirty little secret of financial media is you do much better when you crash. Ratings at CNBC are down over 85% since the Daily Show incident. 85%. 28,000 people on average watch CNBC today. When Fast Money was on during September 2008, we were getting 700,000 viewers. Because the truth is, when stocks are rallying, no one really needs to hear from experts, because you're brilliant. I mean, if you own Apple, there's not word one I can tell people who own Apple about Apple, because they're Goliaths, they're titans, they're giants among men. And this right here, 2013, when we started changing from using a model where we were actually digesting news that other people printed to gathering our own news, because we went on the internet, it changed everything. And it's not just the internet, but it's social media. Facebook. I don't know how many of you use it. It is, for the majority of Americans, their primary source of financial information. Facebook. I mentioned the millennials at Yahoo before. I don't even know anyone who uses Facebook. It's, to me, a bunch of pictures of people's cats and things. I have no idea. But they set it up. Facebook did an experiment at Cornell University, which I believe is an accredited school. They took 700,000 Facebook members and they manipulated their timeline, giving them negative news to see if it would alter their mood. Do you think it worked? Oh boy, did it work. Holy cow, did it work. It worked so well, in fact, they cut the study short. Cornell went and published the research, and the world lost its mind. Sheryl Sandberg came on and she apologized officially, saying, quote, "We didn't mean to make people sad." Actually, I read the study because I'm kind of a dork. That's exactly what they meant to do. That was precisely what they meant to do. Simply by changing the flow of the information to which you're exposed, you can alter your mood. Your mood is the way you make your decisions. So as you go to this social media networking, how many of you are on Twitter? So you follow it. That has become the new news source. It's the go-to way to get your financial information. The problem with that is your brain's not really great at collecting dissent. Who do you follow on Twitter? People you hate? People you vehemently disagree with? People who go against your book and call you a moron? Of course not. You follow your friends. It's Facebook. You friend people. You like people. So financial TV has become sort of talking wall art, if you will. It's on everybody's office, but you only turn it up when you see John or Pete, or I'll see my friends and I'll be like, hey, I remember those guys. I used to hang out with them all the time. Then you turn up the volume and turn it off otherwise. You don't listen because you're gathering your information on the internet, but the problem is the media companies know that. Having worked at Yahoo Finance, where the numbers dwarf what you get from TV, but when you're making the articles, when you're producing all this content, you need it to click. And so how do you get it to click? Well, you get people to share it, and you get it by getting them to agree with you, by telling them what they want to hear. And so you've gone from this model. The original Fast Money was built on the idea of contentious debate, of people locking horns, of arguing. We would have the producer in our ears, and if someone went on too long, and Susan she's actually producing the new Wall Street Week, not a tremendously patient woman. He would be in your little earpiece talking to you while someone else is speaking, saying, take him down. Take him down. It was like having the coach. You guys remember Karate Kid? It was like having the coach from Cobra Kai saying, sweep the leg. Take him. And so I became the thug. She'd be in my ear in particular because I like fighting, and she would just have me go after these attacks. Now, the reason that you do that is it's kind of more interesting TV. You end up with octaboxes. It's noisy, it's contentious, it's exhausting. There's a reason it's not high-form entertainment for the markets. But, and this is the important part, that debate is how you make money into stocks. You don't accomplish anything by finding a bunch of people to agree with your opinion. It just doesn't work. Anyone know who Ray Dalio is? What's he do? He says it up there. I give you a hint on the board. He runs $160 billion. He's a relatively successful kind of guy. He runs a firm that it takes at Bridgewater 18 months in Dalio's estimate to turn someone into a Bridgewater person. His critics say it takes 18 months to program them the way you would want a cult. But what they do is he wants people who can make him feel wrong, who can challenge every position in his book. His thinking is that I already agree with my position. If you're long Apple, you already like the iWatch. But he wants to be talked out of it. He wants to hear something he didn't know on the other side. He wants to be never, ever surprised. Surprise is the worst thing that can happen to you in the market, because there's no really such thing as a good surprise. If you buy a stock, it's because you like a stock. If that stock goes higher, it's not a surprise to you because, as mentioned before, you're a freaking genius. You must be. You bought the stock, it went higher. If it goes lower, that's a negative surprise, but only if you haven't gathered that information. And here's where the problem is. The internet doesn't work that way. Your brain on the internet is an ugly caveman kind of brain, because all you got are the media companies. If you work for the NewYorkTimes.com, you work for that matter for Yahoo Finance, you need audience. They won't click, so you know that. And so you're giving them what they want. You use confirmation bias. Anyone know who this is? I was a psych major, so just the chance to put these kind of terms on a slide, it feels like it justifies the way I spent 4 years a quarter of a century ago. Confirmation bias is simply going out and seeking information that agrees with what you already believe in. Availability heuristic. This is Ebola, was that story. Who here knows someone who caught Ebola? Really? Holy cow! That's amazing. That's awesome. The 4 people in America died from Ebola. The stock market was destroyed over Ebola. That was the availability heuristic. It seemed like a much bigger problem than it was. You know why? Because the media force-fed it to you all day. Because, man, you guys clicked it. Holy cow, did you click Ebola stories. And it just fed itself. It fed itself over and over again. So whereas before, when you're making television, you've got an hour to fill. Eventually, you're going to stumble on something that's actually newsworthy. If you're making clips and you're trying to get them shared by a group of friends, all I'm trying to do is trigger your caveman brain and make that work. The ad hominem fallacy. Who knows what that is? Ad hominem attack. What's that? To the man, it's a personal attack. That's exactly right. Trolling. Holy cow, do I know about trolling. Without going too far into my personal life, I know about trolling. And I'll tell you what, the people who actually click on an article that disagrees with their position, because we know how long someone spends in an article before they'll go into a comment section, seconds. People won't get past the headline. We'll get into how you write headlines before they go to the comment section and make a personal attack. I could come up with the most cogent argument on any topic you would possibly want. It could be proven right before the virtual ink was even dry, and someone on the other side of that position would be calling me car person guy and a psychopath and who got kicked off CNBC before it even happened. And because an ad hominem attack is all based on the idea that if you can discredit any part of a human being on a personal basis, everything else they say is just a bunch of garbage. You dismiss them because your brain's all about gathering those friends. It's all about the dopamine. Las Vegas is huge on dopamine. Slot machines are the best example. If you sit at a slot machine for an hour, you put $200 in it just, I don't know, because lighting it on fire didn't seem to work so well, so you wanted to get rid of the money somehow. Do you want to leave? What keeps you there? It's the dopamine. It's the next thing. It's the next click. No one reads an entire article. If you look at the way people consume anything online, what they're doing is they're looking for more. Just give me more, more. You want more dopamine. They're just feeding the beast. That's the way